MSW Media.
News with swearing. Daily beans, daily beans. Daily beans, daily beans.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Beans for Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. Today, Pete Hegseth is refusing to release the full video of the double-tap boat strike in the Caribbean. Mike Johnson is refusing to hold a vote on extending the Affordable Care Act subsidies. The Trump administration says the White House East Wing destruction is a matter of national security. Enforcement of Texas's bathroom bill draws challenges across the state. Trump is suing the BBC for $10 billion over edited January 6th insurrection speech footage. Jared Kushner is abandoning his plan to build a hotel in Serbia amid backlash. Denver has rejected the Key Lime Airport lease because of ICE flights. Election thief Tina Peters' lawyer is demanding Colorado honor Trump's pardon. Pulitzer Board members hit Trump with discovery in his lawsuit. And Vanity Fair publishes a two-part expose on Trump Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. I'm Allison Gill.
And I'm Dana Goldberg.
Happy taint of the week.
We did it. We got to the middle. I don't know what the middle means anymore, but we got here, people. We got here together.
It just takes some time. Little girl, you're in the middle half the time.
That's right. Just take some time.
I don't know. Everything's going to be all right, though.
I don't either. We're doing the best we can.
Dear Jimmy Eat World, is it?
Yeah.
All right. So, first of all, later in the show, I get to talk with immigration reporter Isabela Dias. She's from Mother Jones, and she's going to discuss Trump's attack on DACA, the fact that he's arresting people in courthouses, the expansion on his travel ban, just doing reverse migration and remigration, which is just ethnic cleansing. She's a really fantastic person of knowledge and expertise who writes for Mother Jones. So I look forward to that. Also, some job numbers came out, I guess. I thought they stopped releasing job numbers, but people are finding them out and reporting them. And the unemployment rate ticked back up to 4.6%. That's the highest since 2021, Dana.
Wow. Yeah, that was definitely a leak because there's no way in hell they would have released that on their own accord. So, yeah, as you said, who knows where these numbers are coming from? They never look good. They never look good.
Yeah. And federal government jobs lost 168,000. Manufacturing shed 5,000 jobs in November. We have net negative job gains for the past 2 months. So it's bad out there.
Yeah. And it's all, I mean, I hate to say this, but this is what he does. Are you surprised when he fires half the federal workforce and so many other positions that have to do with diversity, equity, inclusion? Also, people leaving their jobs because they're not happy, because they don't want to work for corporations and organizations that don't agree with and don't fight for things that they deeply believe in. I think there's also has to do with people saying enough.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting study to see what the job market looks like for Alpha, Gen Z, and, because we just went through it with millennials, and it's been bad and it's getting worse. Wages are down, inflation is up. And that's one of those things that you just can't lie to the public about. So, I mean, he's so far underwater on the numbers and polling on that 31% approval rating on the economy. It's awful.
Brutal.
Yeah. That makes me wonder what he's going to announce tonight in the Oval Office in his 9 p.m. Eastern address. Is he going to be like, the jobs are spectacular? Is he going to come out with his own fake jobs report? Like, who knows what he's going to, we're taking bets on what you think.
Something's going to happen because we're 3 days away from when the Epstein files are supposed to be released. So there's going to be fireworks over the next 3 days, people. Let's just see what they are.
War in Venezuela. Is he going to legalize weed? Take it off Schedule 1? There's all sorts of things he's got planned.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening. All right, we have so much news to get to that we're going to have to start with some quick hits.
And to make a long story short,
First up from PBS, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Tuesday that the Pentagon will not publicly release unedited video of a strike that killed 2 shipwrecked survivors of an initial attack on a boat allegedly carrying cocaine in the Caribbean. Hegseth says that members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee will have an opportunity this week to review the video, but didn't say whether all members of Congress would be allowed to see it, even as a defense policy bill demands that it be released to Congress. And here's a quote. "Of course, we're not going to release the top secret full unedited video. to the general public. That's what he told reporters as he exited a closed-door briefing with senators. We only release stuff on Signal Chat, he said, and we have nothing to hide. No, I'm kidding. I added that.
It sounds about right, though.
Come on.
Yeah. All right. This one's from NBC. It is official. Speaker Mike Johnson, House Speaker, says he won't call a vote. He will not call a vote to extend enhanced subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, effectively guaranteeing they will expire at the end of the month. Really? Republicans lied? No. That means higher insurance premiums. They're going to go into effect for millions of Americans who got coverage through Obamacare next year. The speaker made the announcement Tuesday after a closed-door Republican caucus meeting, saying that leadership failed to reach a deal with centrist members to bring up an ACA amendment on health care bills slated for a vote on Wednesday.
All right, so please remember that. It was a Republican caucus meeting.
Yep.
And the Republicans could not agree on extending the Affordable Care Act subsidies because they're going to try to blame Democrats. All right, next up from Politico. Trump filed a lawsuit on Monday against the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, seeking more than $5 billion from the venerable news outlet over what he contends were deliberately misleading edited speeches that he gave on January 6, 2021, as the Capitol riot was getting underway. I like that. I like the way they say that.
The Capitol riot was getting underway.
Yep, we're underway now. They're neck and neck. They're like, oh my God. Okay, so it's $5 billion, but an additional $5 billion in punitive damages for a total of 10. The lawsuit filed in federal court in Miami. Okay, he filed this in the Southern District of Florida. Complains that the BBC maliciously strung together two comments that he made with his own mouth, but that they were more than 54 minutes apart, in order to convey the impression that he'd urged his supporters to engage in violence as electoral votes were set to be tabulated by Congress. I'm sure the suit is going to be dropped when it gets to discovery. And of course, he's suing in Miami because the UK has stricter laws about filing these stupid lawsuits. So he pulled a Trump judge, not Eileen Cannon, but he pulled a Trump judge there in Florida.
That's unfortunate. All right. Speaking of Trump, this pardon for Tina Peters. Tina Peters' lawyer says Trump's pardon covers her for state crimes. He wrote in a letter to the warden on December 5th, 2025, President Donald J. Trump issued a full and unconditional pardon to my client, Tina Peters. At approximately 5:55 p.m. on December 12th, I personally served a copy of the presidential pardon on armed DOC staff at the La Vista Correctional Facility and requested that they release Mrs. Peters. I expect Mrs. Peters to be released immediately. If she is not, her attorneys will pursue all available civil and criminal remedies against every state officer or official who knowingly participated in obstructing the enforcement of a presidential pardon. And that would mean nobody, because I will pursue all available and civil criminal remedies. There aren't going to be any remedies for that. This is a state's crime. President cannot pardon states' crimes.
No, pardons are for crimes against the United States. And this was not a United States v. Tina Peters. This was the state versus Tina Peters. So that's going to be funny. And I guarantee you it'll get to the Supreme Court. And I am not confident.
Nope, same.
I feel like I should be. I was super confident they wouldn't make the president a king, and they did.
Yeah.
All right. From the Wall Street Journal, Jared Kushner pulled out of a planned Trump-branded development in Belgrade after the project sparked protests and the indictment of a senior Serbian politician. Whoops. I guess that's what makes Jared Kushner back away a little bit, is when everybody who's helping you build your fucking building has been indicted. He's like, okay, maybe not. On Monday, a special prosecutor indicted a cabinet minister and 3 other officials over this project, a planned trio of towers in a central Belgrade site once bombed by NATO. It's an interesting addition in that article there, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting these past few weeks to see where Republicans draw the line in the sand. I guess that's his line. His line.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say this ahead. If I mispronounce this county in Florida, please someone correct me. But this is from Law and Crime. Pulitzer Prize board members filed court documents in Okeechobee County, Florida on Thursday, containing a litany of broad discovery demands in an attempt to beat back President Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit over Russia probe reporting awards. Okay. The board defendants are demanding documentation on subjects ranging from Trump's demands to rescind the awards to his threat to sue to prove that the board statement at issue, and I quote, had a significant impact on the 2020 presidential election, and to Trump's various lawsuits, whether counterclaims and defenses against E. Jean Carroll, a failed defamation case against CNN, a settled suit against ABC, a settled suit against CBS, and an ongoing lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch over Jeffrey Epstein's birthday letter reporting. The defendants further demanded all of Trump's tax returns, and I quote, from all jurisdictions, including all attachments, schedules, and worksheets from 2015 to the present day, documents sufficient to show all sources of your income over the same time period, documents, and I quote, sufficient to show all of your financial holdings and his liabilities, and finally, his health records and prescription medication history. This is a great fucking way to get the president to drop his bullshit lawsuit. But man, they asked for everything. They're like, you want to go? Let's fucking go.
Yeah, and that's the problem with filing a defamation suit. If you're Donald Trump, you got to prove that they're lying about you.
Yes.
Yeah, this suit will be dropped in 3, 2. That's pretty broad. They'll probably have to narrow it, but I think it's great that they're like, okay, you said that our Pulitzer Prize reporting on Russia is full of shit. Great, prove it. And so that's what there will be at least some reckoning for that. All right, we have more news to get to, but we have to take a really quick break. So everybody stick around. We'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey, everybody, I want to talk about my favorite subscription service. It's Naked Wines. So choosing wine to bring home can be really difficult. I used to spend ages staring at all the options. I was having like overstimulation from all of the choices, but I still always ended up picking the wrong one because I would go by the label. But Naked Wines ended all that. They deliver bottles that feel curated, not random at all, and gatherings run more smoothly. It's amazing. And my guests get to try something new, and I look like I planned ahead. Haha. So Naked Wines is a service that directly connects you to the world's finest independent winemakers so you can get award-winning wine delivered straight to your door. So let's thank Naked Wines for supporting the show. Go to nakedwines.com/dailybeans and use our code DAILYBEANS for the code and the password, and you'll get their incredible deal of 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99. We recently opened a bottle of Nova Catamart Finger Lakes Riesling 2022. This wine, straight from a New York specialist, tasted like had melon undertones. There were peaches in there. It was the perfect bottle for the moment and one that we will definitely be having again. So Naked Wines resonates with me because it supports independent winemakers while making hosting easier. They cut out extra costs like middleman markups so winemakers can pass savings on without sacrificing any quality. And the wine is amazing. It shows up ready for dinner or gifts or gatherings. My coworkers prefer white. I lean red. So splitting a box makes everyone happy. I also rate the bottles with each shipment so the next shipment gets better and better. Now is the time to join the Naked Wines community. Head to nakedwines.com/dailybeans and click enter voucher and put in my code DAILYBEANS for the code and the password for 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99 with shipping included. That's $100 off your first 6 bottles. That's nakedwines.com/dailybeans. Use the code and password DAILYBEANS for 6 bottles of wine for $39.99. You'll be glad you did. Everybody, welcome back. It's time for the hot notes. Hot notes. All right, first up from the Associated Press, the Trump administration said in a court filing on Monday that the president's White House ballroom construction project must continue for unexplained national security reasons and because a preservationist organization that wants it stopped has no standing to sue. The filing was in response to the lawsuit filed last Friday by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. This is the one you went over, Dana. It asked a federal judge to halt Trump's project until it goes through multiple independent reviews and public comment periods and wins approval from Congress, like you're supposed to. The administration's 36-page filing included a declaration from Matthew C. Quinn, Deputy Director of the U.S. Secret Service, the agency responsible for the security of the president and other high-ranking officials, that said more work on the site of the former White House East Wing is still needed to meet the agency's safety and security requirements. The filing did not explain the specific national security concerns. The administration has offered to share classified details with the judge in private in an in-person setting without the plaintiffs present. That's what's called in-camera ex parte. The East Wing had sat atop an emergency operations bunker for the president. Now, Quinn said even a temporary halt to construction would consequently hamper the agency's ability to fulfill its statutory obligation and its protective mission. So this whole time, he doesn't have a bunker. So the thing is, now a hearing in the case was scheduled for Tuesday in federal court in Washington. The government's response offered the most comprehensive look yet in the ballroom construction project, including a window into how it was so swiftly approved by the Trump administration's bureaucracy and its expanding scope. So this, I'm telling you, is like Hitler's bunker that he built. He built a ballroom too on top of a bunker. And that's under the East Wing is where the bunker used to be. So that is their national security concern, I'm guessing. Is like, well, when I do another coup, I want to be able to hide somewhere safe. And so we got to make sure it's all, you can't put that in a court filing, obviously. So.
Yeah, obviously. This one's from the Texas Tribune. This file is under, of course, we saw this coming. In the weeks since Texas's new bathroom bill designed to target transgender people went into effect, some opponents of the restrictions have begun challenging both the spirit and the letter of the law as questions remain, how are you going to enforce this? Senate Bill 8, also known as Texas Women's Privacy Act, fuck off, restricts what public restrooms, locker rooms, and other similar facilities transgender people can use in public buildings by determining access based on sex assigned at birth. The law does not mandate a policy, but requires that cities, counties, and public agencies take every reasonable step to ensure people do not enter restrooms not matching their sex assigned at birth. This obviously doesn't take into account intersex fucking people. And so many others. Supporters of the law pushed for more than a decade to cement the sex-based restrictions SB 8 creates as a way of protecting women's private spaces. Opponents of the law, however, have maintained the lack of clear guidelines and how to uphold SB 8, how it's going to lead to uneven, ineffective, and potentially invasive enforcement. And on December 6th, the group of protesters went to the Texas Capitol to test that claim. After initially being able to enter the restrooms, matching their gender identity, and giving a series of speeches in the Capitol Rotunda, the protesters were barred from again entering the bathrooms by several Department of Public Safety officers. Some protesters attempting to enter the women's restroom were asked to show their IDs, which DPS said in a statement were voluntary checks to ensure compliance. But it did not specify why those who did not show IDs were not allowed into the restroom. DPS cited the State Preservation Board's public restroom policy, which was updated in February and expects visitors to use restrooms matching their biological sex. The policy does not mention a required verification process. Officers ultimately let 2 trans women into the restroom after they shared their IDs, which had female markers, according to a video shared online by 6W Project. That's a new advocacy group that's organizing this protest. Protesters also said the men's restroom were not guarded by officers. Hear that? Because this isn't about trans people. It's about controlling fucking women.
Yep.
Vasquez and other opponents have said the law could encourage people to photograph or harass people in public restrooms, an issue that has preceded SB 8's implementation, including once at the state capitol. In 2023, Williamson County GOP Chair Michelle Evans posted a photo online of a transgender woman inside a Texas Capitol bathroom, leading to officers confiscating Evans' phone. Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza also launched an investigation into Evans to evaluate whether she had broken state laws. Evans sued Garza to block the investigation, claiming she was within her First Amendment rights to post the photo displaying the inside of a bathroom. No, you're not.
Gross.
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals on Tuesday ruled in Garza's favor, allowing the investigation to continue. Those who enter, and I quote, the wrong restroom are not individually punished by SB 8. However, the law carries steep penalties for institutions where violations occur. That's interesting. The fines, $25,000 for the first instance and $125,000 per day for every subsequent violation, are only imposed after complaints are filed with the institution and the Attorney General's office and an investigation is conducted. Individuals can also sue institutions for violations. It's really weird because it sounds like someone could just call in and be like, hey, you let a trans person use the wrong bathroom. That's a $25,000 violation to this institution.
Yeah, and then they launch an investigation using resources, investigatory resources, where you could actually be investigating things that matter.
Yeah. Now, cities and counties must also comply with SB 8's restrictions, but Austin City Council is hoping a new resolution passed Thursday is going to be able to circumvent what they feel is an intentionally exclusionary law. The resolution kicks off a program from the city manager to help find ways to replace multi-occupancy restrooms affected by SB 8 with single-person restrooms. Council members said they hope the resolution will create a more welcoming environment for trans and gender nonconforming Austinites. By the way, you can read more at texastribune.org. We'll have a link in the show notes for you.
Yeah. I mean, if they want to use government money, like maybe take some money away from the Department of Defense to build individual restrooms for everybody, whatever. This is such bullshit. But you and I saw this coming. How are you going to enforce this law?
And so many more people who are not trans. I'm telling you right now, women in general, there's going to be an attack on women that don't fit society's definition of femininity, or there's going to be butch lesbians that are going to be questioned and photographed. This is going to be a disaster. They're going to have so many fucking lawsuits on their hands. You think this is expensive for a fine? Watch it.
Nobody posted up outside the men's restroom. Very interesting. All right, next up from Colorado Newsline. Denver City Council voted against a resolution Monday that would have allowed Key Lime Air to lease ground space at Denver International Airport over concerns about the airline's immigration enforcement flights in recent months. I love this. The resolution would have created a lease for 1,200 feet of space at the airport for Key Lime Air, which also operates as Denver Air Connection. This space would include an area to store items like snow removal equipment, employee parking, an office trailer. That's according to the proposed lease agreement. Without this lease, the company can still use the common area of a cargo apron. Quote, when we're talking about the values of our city, and we stand up here and we say time after time that we support our immigrant community and that we are a welcoming city, I cannot support a corporation that does not prescribe to that. That's Council Member Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez. Now, 2 of Key Lime's airplanes have been used for U.S. immigration and customs enforcement flights to shuttle detained immigrants around the country, primarily to ICE's hubs in Texas and Louisiana, as first reported by Newsline. During that time period analyzed by Newsline, neither of those planes landed in Colorado. There have been 122 outbound immigration enforcement flights out of Denver this year alone. That's according to the most recent ICE Flight Monitor report from Human Rights Watch, though there is little information about which airport those flights were leaving from. Key Lime Air is headquartered at the Centennial Airport in Arapahoe County. It has also operated at Denver International Airport since 2006 as a cargo feeder airline, according to George Karakianis. That's the airport's senior vice president of airline and commercial affairs. I think I pronounced that right. Karakianis. That's it. Now, the airport could stand to lose Federal Aviation Administration grants because of its denial of this lease, which Council member Kevin Flynn cited as his reason for voting in favor of letting the ICE flights there. Quote, voting it down means they won't be paying us. They'll be using it for free, he said. We can't kick Key Lime Air out of the airport, but we can make them pay to use this piece of concrete they want to use. Voting this down means they use the common use area for free. Flynn was the single vote in favor of this lease, by the way. Quote, this is where the rubber starts to hit the road when we start to talk about what we're going to do in Denver and about what was happening at the federal level. That's Councilmember Sarah Parody. She said, I have no interest in supporting this deportation machine. And if an aviation grant is what's on the line there, it's very clear to me where the city should stand on that.
Good for her.
So, well done.
Absolutely.
Well done, City Council.
All right, this is from the Times. The nation's capital was stunned on Tuesday by an explosive new article recounting a year's worth of unguarded conversations with the usually guarded Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff who spilled on everything from Trump's alcoholic personality to brewing war in Venezuela. I don't understand how this even happened, by the way. And I don't know if this is like, what could possibly be gained from this other than her losing her job? I can't believe that they would approve any of this. Ms. Wiles, who typically shuns publicity, she gave 11 interviews over the course of Trump's first year back in office to Chris Whipple. Chris is the author of the book on the White House chiefs of staff who published her comments in Vanity Fair. She spoke really candidly about the challenges of managing a volatile boss, the battles she has lost, and the curious collection of people surrounding him. In response, Ms. Wiles went on social media after the story was published to call it a disingenuously framed hit piece on me and the finest president, White House staff, and cabinet in history. She took no issue with any of the facts in the article, but she said only significant context was disregarded and much of what I and others said about the team and the president was left out of the story. So here are 5 key takeaways. First of all, she said that she had urged him not to pardon the most violent rioters from the Capitol on January 6th of 2021, which he ended up doing. She said that she had tried to get him to hold off announcing the hefty tariffs in the spring because of huge disagreement on his team, but he went ahead and did that anyway. But what was most intriguing, perhaps, is she said that she had forged a loose agreement with him to end the scores settling against his political enemies after 90 days because she did not want it to distract from his real agenda, an idea that clearly did not work. And she acknowledged that some prosecutions were driven, at least in part, by his desire for payback. Whoops. She said in some cases it may look like retribution, and there may be an element of that from time to time. Who would blame him? Not me.
Oh boy. Letitia James's lawyer was like, see, yep, everybody. They even put out a statement, because they mentioned Letitia James and she's like, yeah, that was probably retribution. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. I love this one. She said that Vice President J.D. Vance had been a conspiracy theorist for a decade and called Russell T. Vought, the budget director, a right-wing absolute zealot. She was scathing about Musk, as we know, the billionaire ally who was given free rein early in the administration to take a wrecking ball to federal agencies and departments. She said he's an odd duck, as I think geniuses are. It's not helpful, but he's his own person. She called him an avowed ketamine user. Well, yeah, duh. Ms. Wiles recounted Mr. Musk's evisceration of the U.S. Agency of International Development in devastating terms. She said, I was initially aghast. That's what she told Mr. Whipple, noting that the foreign aid workers do very good work. Mr. Musk's approach was not the way I would do it, and added that no rational person could think that the USAID process was a good one. Nobody. While Mr. Trump for years has repeatedly claimed that Mr. Clinton visited Epstein's private island, Ms. Wiles said, and I quote, there's no evidence of that. Asked if there was any incriminating information about Mr. Clinton in the Epstein files, she said the president was wrong about that, saying Clinton is innocent, basically, what she's saying, at least as far as she knows. As for Bondi, Ms. Pamela, a friend of Ms. Wiles, she said the attorney general did not recognize the fervor of the president's right-wing supporters about Mr. Epstein. She said, I think she completely whiffed on appreciating that it was the very targeted group that cared about this. First, she gave them binders full of nothingness. And then she said that the witness list or the client list was on her desk. There's no client list, and sure as hell wasn't on her desk. Okay. Whether she meant it or not, Ms. Wiles set a new political and legal bar for her boss if he opts to escalate his conflict with President Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. Well, Mr. Trump has bombed boats of alleged drug traffickers, seized an oil tanker, and declared Venezuelan airspace off limits. He has not sought congressional authorization so far for any of it. But if he orders the, and I quote, land strikes that it has been talking about, Ms. Wiles said he would need authority from Congress. She also made plain that the regime change was Mr. Trump's real goal. She said he wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle. And people way smarter than me on that say he will.
Huh. Oh, boy.
Yep.
Yeah, that... a lot of people talking about that article. Honestly, Dana, it's stuff we already knew, but to have it confirmed by the White House chief of staff,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
Holy cannoli. And for her to be like, no, I told him to stop the retribution weaponization of the Justice Department after 90 days. Well, what about Letitia James? Well, yeah, that is that. Just, my God. Very interesting article. If you get a chance to read it, I don't think it's behind a paywall. At least it didn't give me a paywall. So it's in Vanity Fair. You can't miss it. It's kind of everywhere right now. And there's a lot going on in there. All right, everybody, we have some good news to get to, but I'm going to talk to Isabela Dias from Mother Jones right after this break. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm super honored today to be joined by immigration reporter from Mother Jones, who wrote in an article in November called Then They Came for the Dreamers. She wrote, in July, the Department of Education launched an investigation into 5 universities over scholarships for students with DACA status. That same month, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said the quiet part out loud. DACA beneficiaries may be subject to arrest and deportation and should consider the option to self-deport. So please welcome from Mother Jones, Isabela Dias. Hi, Isabela. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for all your reporting on this, because I think with all of the mass deportation, stuff that's going on, I think it gets lost. The dreamers get lost. They've been getting lost in the first Trump administration, the second Trump administration, and their status wasn't as fully protected as it could have been when we had the White House under Biden. So talk a little bit about the basics of DACA, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's really hard to keep track of all of the immigration policies and changes. So I appreciate the opportunity to shine a light on this specific issue. So DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and it essentially is this policy that dates back to 2012, so the Obama administration, and it was implemented as a way to protect from deportation certain immigrants who had been brought to the United States as children. And at the time when this policy, which was created through executive action, was announced, President Obama was really adamant that that was the right thing to do, that it didn't make any sense for a country like the United States to expel, this promising young immigrants who had been brought to this country, through no fault of their own and didn't have a way to legalize their status. And since, 2012, hundreds of thousands of young immigrants from all sorts of countries and who live in, all of the states in this country have benefited from this policy. They have been protected from deportation, and they have been allowed to lawfully work. And of course, as you said, the program itself has been challenged, by the Trump administration. It has been challenged in the courts, and it has kind of been in this legal limbo, which also means that more than 550,000 people who currently are enrolled in the program, have their livelihoods and, security at risk.
Yeah, it's up in the air. And I think that stress is something that a lot of people probably don't understand unless it happens directly to you or it touches somebody that, is close to you. But it's not like you just automatically get DACA status. It's an exceptionally high bar. You have to apply for it. There are a lot of really high standards to meet in order to become considered to get the protections of DACA.
Yeah, I think that's like a really important point. And, this undocumented youth, they came forward, right? They trusted the government and the promise that the Obama administration had made to them that if only they submitted to regular background checks, because they have to renew their status every 2 years in order to keep their protection in place. If only they followed the rules and, interacted with the legal immigration system, that in return, they could, feel safe or a little bit safer, that they wouldn't be made a priority for deportation. And so that is the entire premise, right? And the whole point of DACA. And one that is now, being put into question by the Trump administration, who have decided to take the stance that DACA actually, never mind, it doesn't really confer you any form of legal status or protect you from deportation. And, I should say that they have taken this position while not really, doing anything official in terms of changing the regulation or trying to roll back DACA through, the courts. They have just, this is a stance that they have taken, and then they are imposing it as policy, even though it goes against the program and the regulation.
Yeah. And we've seen so many betrayals and broken promises and broken trust between non-citizens, immigrants, people trying to get through the system and the Trump administration. I mean, we've seen it with the temporary protected status being revoked. I know that I've spoken with a lot of folks, for example, Afghan refugees who helped us in the war and who are now being betrayed. So they're up in the air. We've seen the IRS. The IRS long made a promise. If you pay your taxes, thank you. We aren't going to go after you. But then the IRS started handing over addresses and information and are trying to get private contractors to help them locate people that maybe have expired or no longer current addresses and contact information through the IRS. We see TSA in a recent article handing over travelers' information to the Department of Homeland Security. So I think with all of those kinds of breaking stories, people kind of lose sight of the fact that, as you say in your article from November, they're saying the quiet part out loud, that just because you are qualified under DACA, that you may be subject to arrest and deportation, and you should consider self-deportation.
Yeah, and I think one word that, you mentioned and that kept coming up as I was reporting this piece was this idea of betrayal, of, this active targeting of DACA recipients for arrest and detention, and even in some cases deportation, as the ultimate betrayal of DACA. And what we started seeing, since the beginning of the year was this kind of cases popping up of people who have active DACA protected status being detained, which was something that you wouldn't have seen previously. Maybe, there was one arrest here or there, but they were generally, considered to be like mistakes. And then they would be, there would be a remedy for that. And instead now the Trump administration seems to be actively targeting DACA recipients to the extent that a coalition of, immigrant rights groups, they started this tracker called what they called, quote unquote, abduction tracker, where they have, the last time I checked, at least 20 cases of DACA recipients and dreamers who had been, either arrested or were in detention despite having valid protection. And as you mentioned, that really falls into a larger universe of immigrants who have enjoyed legal protection. I've written about, TPS holders who have also been, targeted and have lost, in many cases, their protection in what essentially, like legal experts described as the largest delegalization, push in modern U.S. history. So, all of these things are part of, I think, a larger agenda, the mass, deportation agenda by the Trump administration. And I think it really, raises the question of, that the administration has really tried to sell that, point that they are going after, quote unquote, the worst of the worst, and, attempting to, arrest criminal illegal aliens, as they like to say. And I think we have enough evidence at this point, to at least question that premise, when the very people who are following the rules and, trying to do it the right way, are being punished.
Yeah. And that has been ramped up since the shooting in DC. You just did a piece for Mother Jones last week about the increase in targeting legal immigration processes since that happened. So talk a little bit about that, because I thought that the piece that you did on that particular aspect of it, or with that focus, I thought was really, really important. Had a lot of important information in that piece that you did.
Yeah. So I think right after that horrific shooting in DC the day before Thanksgiving, the Trump administration kind of acted very quickly, and Trump himself had very strong words. He was promising to stop, all immigration from quote unquote third world countries and other, disparaging language about immigrants. And they sort of like immediately started taking action. One of the things that the administration did was stop all asylum decisions and visa processing for Afghan nationals, given that the alleged suspect in the shooting was an Afghan immigrant. And but they didn't stop there. They also stopped all asylum pending decisions, regardless of the country of nationality, and have since taken other steps, including putting a hold on the processing of applications for immigration benefits, such as green cards, for citizens from 19 countries, which are the countries that since July have been targeted by the travel ban. So this is a very, very sweeping, crackdown on legal avenues. And I, started hearing from immigration lawyers who were having to notify several, dozens of clients that all of a sudden their application for asylum, which they had been waiting, for a hearing for years, that it was now indefinitely, put on hold. They were having to notify people who were on the verge of getting a green card, again, also after years of waiting for it and paying potentially thousands of dollars in fees. And people who were on the verge of being, becoming naturalized citizens. We saw ceremonies getting canceled, on the day of. And these lawyers were describing it to me as this is a disproportionate, reaction to something that it's horrific and should be condemned in every possible way. But what it does, it punishes the collective, including very vulnerable immigrants, asylum seekers, for the wrongdoing, a terrible act that was committed by a single individual. And these lawyers were worried about the, widespread ripple effects that this is going to have. We are talking about, longer wait times for all visas and all immigration benefits to be processed, because now the administration says they're going to essentially go back and look at every green card that they have granted, to someone from one of those targeted countries, or they're going to review every single asylum case of an African national. And all of that is just going to add more burden to a system that is already, struggling and has backlogs in the millions of cases. So altogether, it really seems like this is an attack on the entire legal immigration system, not just on a particular, group that the administration might want to punish for what happened in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and I think that's why he's taking such a hit in the polls right now. He ran on getting rid of the worst, like you said, and the idea of if you want to come here, do it legally. But now we're seeing, as you said, people already in the process, that being not just stopped, but now they're actually going after people and showing up in courtrooms to people who are showing up for their hearings, doing what they're supposed to do legally, who are, being detained and arrested. And in some cases, having the Department of Justice drop the immigration cases so that they can rebring them in an expedited manner. And, then we start pivoting to language like remigration and reverse migration, which is just ethnic cleansing. And I think it's gotten so bad, especially in the polling, that there's a little bit of a rift between Stephen Miller and Donald Trump, because this is making him look really bad and his polls are taking a huge hit. But it's gone so far that Fox News was pointing it out and saying that DHS is now going to pivot away from what the Bovinos are doing and what Customs Border Protection is doing, and going back to just going after the worst of the worst, which is an admission that they weren't. But, I think that it's polling so badly for them because, Americans won't stand for this kind of stuff. And it was an election. It was an election lie. It was a campaign lie to get elected. So what are you seeing now in your reporting and in your research about, ICE and Customs and Border Protection? Are they going to pivot away from this, or are they still going to show up at courthouses to arrest people that are in the legal process the way that everybody who was against immigrants said that they had to do?
I find it really hard to predict or anticipate in any way what this administration might do at any given point. They have talked about in the past, kind of backtracking from certain, policies and practices and then have only, I feel escalated, the crackdown. So, and I think, just going back for a second to the DACA issue, one of the things that came up in my interviews that some advocates were talking about is this idea that instead of trying to, go on a full out attack on DACA, which has generally been a popular program, the Dreamers, the undocumented youth, they have generally been kind of the model, immigrants for candidates for legalization. They have enjoyed public opinion support and bipartisan agreement in Congress. And so instead of trying to just really go all out and try to terminate DACA like they did in the first administration and failed, now, Trump 2.0, they're trying to just chip away at the program and kind of somewhat quietly, maybe one arrest at a time and sort of disqualifying the whole premise of the program to basically make it, go away in effect and relegate it to this, death by 1,000 cuts. And I think, one can assume that one of the calculations there is that, yes, maybe, trying to end DACA again might not bode well for us. It's not a good look. So I think certainly the administration is concerned, as you were saying, about, how the public is perceiving their crackdown. At the same time, we're still seeing, basically the occupation of cities, like Memphis and Tennessee, and just before that, New Orleans and Louisiana. So it remains an open question whether that will make the Trump administration reconsider its, mass deportation agenda. And I think, one of the effects of the many dreadful effects that these policies are having is that it only forces people further into the shadows, right? It discourages them from participating in society, fully, but also from being, engaging with the legal system, which one would think is exactly the opposite of what the administration would want to accomplish and what the American public voted for and expected from the administration.
Yeah, and participating in law enforcement in general. Nobody's going to assist law enforcement with solving other crimes if they are going to be rewarded with a jail and deportation and detention and have to deal with all of the consequences of that. So it's that and the negative impact on the economy, and the negative impact on tax revenue, the negative impact on the labor force, there's so many things that pile on top of each other that are just super damaging. Now we're not going to have a travel industry because, if you're coming from an allied country, they want to dig through 5 years of your social media past, and they're forcing children to make public their private social media accounts. It's dangerous and it's expensive. I can't think of a single benefit to it at all, especially given natural-born citizens of the United States commit crime at a much higher rate than non-citizens or immigrants. So thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else in your reporting that you want to make sure everybody knows about before I let you go?
Well, I would maybe point the listeners to one of my more recent articles as well, which is perhaps appropriately titled, given the conversation we just had. I wrote a piece called A Year of Hell for Immigrants, where essentially I tried to take stock of not all, because that would be, I think, impossible, but many of the policies on immigration and how they have affected, all immigrants, regardless of status in the country. So it is one of those, kind of looking back at the year pieces that you wish you didn't have to write. But I think it's important, just given the, sheer volume of things that are happening at all times, that we just try to wrap our heads around, the depth and breadth of this attack on immigrants.
Thank you. And tell everyone where they can find and follow you and your work as well, please.
Yes. Well, you can read this reporting and much more at motherjones.com.
Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate all of this reporting. I'm definitely going to take a look at that end of the year perspective on the depth and breadth and scope of all of these policies, these very harmful policies. And I do appreciate your time today. Isabela Dias from Mother Jones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody stick around. We'll be right back with the good news. Everybody, welcome back. It's time for the good news.
Who likes good news, everyone? Then good news, everyone.
Good news. And if you have any good news or good trouble suggestions you'd like to send us, please do so. And your good news can be big, it can be small, it can be recent, it can be in the distant past. Anything that you think will make us smile, because we definitely need it these days. You can also send a shout out to a loved one or yourself. We love self shout outs. A government program that's helped you or a loved one, a small business in your area that could use a boost, maybe a nonprofit that you want to shine a light on and let us know what good work they're doing is all about. You could send that to us as well. And all you got to do to get your submission read on the air is pay your pod pet tariff, which means either attach a photo of your pet, and we can try to guess the breeds in your shelter pup if you want, or your cat or your turtle or your horse or your cow or your chicken, whatever. We're very bad at it, but it's fun.
It is fun.
If you don't have a pet, send an adoptable pet in your area. We'll see if we can find him a home. And if you don't have that, just grab a random photo of an adorable animal or a really scary, weird animal, whatever it is. Just grab one off the internet and send it to us. We also like bird watching photos, which can be a bird or you flipping the bird to a Trump building. Some of them are really good. Some of these bird watching, they're really zealous bird flipping. And we do appreciate that.
I mean, with gusto.
Gusto, yes. And then, of course, family photos of the holiday decorations. If you want to send us your garden or what you're knitting, sewing, painting, making, creating, anything at all, send it to us. dailybeanspod.com. Click on contact. First up, Good Trouble Queerathon. All right, everybody, the Queerathon is today with It Gets Better. We just made a pretty massive donation to them, and we hope you match it. The matching link dedicated to us here at the Daily Beans is itgetsbetter.org/dailybeansdonate. You can follow the Queerathon at twitch.tv/itgetsbetter. And again, if you can give, itgetsbetter.org/dailybeansdonate. We really appreciate it. We've already got thousands of dollars. We're so close to matching the $20,000 that we here at the Daily Beans gave the It Gets Better Foundation organization. Amazing nonprofit, brilliant people. I love that organization so much, Dana.
It's awesome. And it was a great interview. Thank you for doing that, Allison. This next one is from Nick, pronouncing him. This is regarding Monday's good news reference to Fin Timlin Bin Wim Bin Lim Bus Stop Fatang Oli Biscuit Barrel. Good day. Eyes in the Leguminati Pyramid. I thought I'd chime in on Mr. Biscuit Barrel. He is indeed the silly party candidate covered in Monty Python's election night special sketch, utterly trouncing Kevin Phillips' bong of the slightly silly party. I think the sketch illustrates that rather than the liberal conservative false binary, we should organize our political system around its inherent stupidity. As always, keep on keeping on. We here hope the bourgeoisie are recovering well from their recent issues so they can resume properly influencing the house in fun and adorable manners. Attached are my long-suffering wife, Rose, with both Megatron and Ozzy, as well as a picture of Megatron looking his usual majestic self.
Nick Zacharias. I know it's Nick. And thank you. I thought it might be Monty Python. Look at Megatron. He's huge.
Yeah, well done.
Hi, Rose. Good to see you, my friend. All right, next up from Anonymous. Pronoun she and her, pointing out a media bias blind spot. Subject, Africa is not punishment. Media complicity normalizes the regime's racist ideology. Greetings from Nairobi on a quick detox trip from the shit show in my adopted country. I recently discovered MSW Media, become an avid listener of the Daily Beans, and my new favorite, Beans Talk. I truly appreciate news delivered with candor and a little swearing. Reflecting on the December 15th story on Kilmar Abrego, for months, I've been deeply troubled by the way African nations are portrayed when they're mentioned as potential deportation destinations. The tone is almost always dismissive. When referencing forced removals, the media has consistently depicted the motherland as irredeemable, a place where the mere threat of exile is treated as the gravest indignity and the harshest of punishments, exactly as this regime intends. I cringe when even the most progressive advocates echo this administration's racist leanings by reinforcing harmful stereotypes, portrayals that echo the derogatory notions of shithole countries and garbage people. Every country mentioned in these contexts, whether Eswatini, Liberia, Uganda, is rich with beauty and love and dynamic political and economic landscapes. These nations deserve respect and acknowledgement over the complexities woven into its history and culture. In the future, speak of the motherland in these countries with dignity and awe that they are owed. Doing so affirms the values this platform champions. I know this is not a good news submission. I'm just including a photograph of beautiful Diana, Kenya, by a local artist. Njoki Maina Gatau. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Wow, that is beautiful.
Please send in a correction if so. And that's a really good point, Anonymous.
So good.
I think what we need to do, because they are trying to deport Abrego Garcia to places like Uganda, Uruguay, Eswatini, Liberia as punishment, but not because it's a shithole country. They're doing it because he's never been there. He doesn't know anything about it. He knows no one. And the big thing that makes it a punishment is the potential refoulement to El Salvador, where he was tortured. That is what makes it a punishment to be sent to those countries, as opposed to Costa Rica, which would give him protected refugee status and not refoul him to El Salvador.
Got it.
So I'll make sure to be more clear about that in the future. So thanks for pointing that out.
Absolutely. Thanks, Allison. This is from Tori, pronouns she and her. And Tori, you'll be happy to hear if you listen to this episode that we covered it. It's regarding the Pulitzer Prize board suing Trump. And we've got a link on this to that article that we talked about. And it says, I know that Allison stays up on all sorts of law things involving Trump. I just wonder if you all have been tracking this lawsuit happening. I know that he throws out a ton of lawsuits and these guys are pushing back with some seriousness. I'm attaching Rex, the king of anything resembling a box. That's awesome.
Yes, Tori, we are tracking that. We talked about it today for a little bit. I'm really, really excited about that discovery. I'm really interested to see what the judge has to say about what Trump has to hand over to prove that they're lying. That's just fantastic.
Love it.
Yeah, it's great. Next up, the kitty, by the way, fantastico. Next up from Amy, pronouns she and her. Hi, AG and DG. Your podcast is an important part of my daily morning routine. I especially like Fugelsang Fridays because A, it's Fugelsang, and B, we made it through another week of the shit show. I would like to give a shout out to an organization that's getting into good trouble. When I visit Portland, I often stay just a few blocks away from the notorious ICE facility. Apart from ICE and a Tesla dealer on the same block, ew. It's a lovely, quiet neighborhood with restaurants, businesses, daycare facilities, historic buildings, and the Willamette River Greenway Trail nearby. While walking along the trail recently, I stopped by ICE to see with my own eyes. I was heartened to encounter volunteers with PRIC waiting outside the building to assist immigrants with appointments that day. The volunteers collected contact information for these visitors so that in the event they're detained, their family and legal resources can be notified. The Portland Immigration Rights Coalition, that's the PIRC, you can check them out at pircoregon.org, is a 20-year-old nonprofit that fights for immigrant justice in Oregon with rapid response, advocacy, and organizing. So if your listeners are interested in volunteering or donating to help PIRC, keep up their good trouble. For Pod Pet Tariff, I'm enclosing a photo of Willie and Waylon, our dogs, great names, enjoying their off-leash time in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Look at these beauties. Oh, there's a breed. Are they
Catahoula cattle? I don't know. Just make something up.
Catahoula bred bloodhound dogs. Not collies, maybe? No, what?
They look
what
like
are
spaniels, but
they're Springer Spaniels. You got it.
Look at me.
Check you out.
Finally got one. All right. This is from Sherry, blue wave bitch extraordinaire. Damn right. Pronouns she and her. Hello, the lady. Wow. Hello, lovely ladies of the legumes. Here's a quick good news story and a joke to share because we all need a laugh. A week ago, I attended a holiday luncheon of a group of progressive ladies called Voices United on the Road Forward. This group formed at the retirement community after the first Women's March in 2017. Instead of having a speaker at our holiday party, we were challenged to create holiday-themed protest posters. It was a lot of fun, and afterwards, I was reminding everyone that I attend the weekly SSA protest in our small Texas town. So they donated the signs to our protest group. The new Blue Wave Bitch, BWB, that group used them for the first time in this past Saturday. Also, one man at the protest brought Santa hats for all of us to wear. It was a very festive protest, and we got tons of honks. A fun time was had by all. So here is my joke. Two retired ladies, Sherry and Mary, are running errands in Sherry's car. As they're driving around town, Mary notices that Sherry is driven through a stop sign without stopping. Mary thinks, boy, that's not safe, but she doesn't say anything. This happens 2 more times, and finally Mary says, Sherry, did you know that you missed 3 stop signs? And Sherry says, oh shit, am I driving? For my pod pet tax, I'm sending a few photos from the protest.
These are fantastic.
Y'all look wonderful.
These are beautiful signs.
Yeah.
I love this, Sherry. Thank you. Yeah. Oh shit, am I driving? Is funny. I knew a guy who lived out in Alpine, called himself the mayor of Alpine, Dana. He would come to the bar, bring his own 12-pack of PBR, sit there and drink the whole 12-pack, wearing overalls with no shirt and a piece of straw in his mouth and a straw hat. And he is known for collecting like classic and vintage cars. And one day he's telling this story and he weaves a long tale in a southern drawl. And he talks about how he was coming home from the Alpine Inn one night. That's the bar we were at. And the Springs Inn or something like that. And he said, and then I went into the ditch. I went through that, the wooden fence over there on this particular street and rolled down into the ditch. And somebody was like, oh my God, Mayor, what car were you driving? They were concerned, because he has these really beautifully old, like classic restored cars. And he said, driving? Hell, I was walking. And it was just really funny. That reminded me of that. Next up from Deidre, pronouns she and her. This is a self shout out. I love these. I joined my sewing and quilting group in my 55 plus community and made my first quilt 2 years ago. I entered a quilt block in our fall challenge this November and won 2 first prizes. Amazing. One of our best creative use of color, one for best creative use of the color red, and one for the best use of textured fabric. I was blown away when my name was announced. There are so many gifted people in our group, I didn't think I had a chance. The second picture is of me with my Quisp hat, along with my 2 sisters. I loved that hat, and I'm sure I ate a lot of Quisp cereal to get enough box tops to qualify. My mom made us nightgowns that we're wearing. She would make us new ones every year. She was a wonderful seamstress, and I pale in comparison, but I guess some of her talent rubbed off on me. Congratulations. Look at this. Oh my gosh. This
So
photo of these children is so great. And the tree in the background.
Oh my God.
Wonderful.
All right. This is a quick one. Yesterday I'd mentioned that we had a listener, and it's Hai Ting, pronouns she and her, is the one that said we should end our beans talk with and beans, like the actors do, and scene. Mm-hmm. So just want to give credit and the beautiful baby for pod pet tags.
Aww,
yeah.
Thanks, Hai Ting.
All right. This is from Janice, pronouns she and her. I'm so fucking pissed about what they're doing to undocumented immigrants that I wanted to do something to make a difference. I thought the undocumented might be afraid to seek out somewhere to help with presents for their children. I contacted Hispanic friends of mine that run a food pantry and asked them if they had an undocumented family that needed a little help that we could buy gifts for Christmas. We were given a family with 4 children. We bought toys and clothes for each one. Then we bought a gift for the household. They needed a toaster. Then we bought a gift card at a grocery store for perishable food that they can get in the pantry. They can't get in the pantry. I know this isn't much, but at least we would put a smile on faces of one terrified family for Christmas. I don't mean to interrupt, but this is much.
It
Janice,
is much.
Do not. Yeah, absolutely. For my pod pet tariff, I've attached a photo of my kitty Wrigley. Oh, we lost about a year ago when he was 19 and a half.
What?
Wrigley had a good run. We have had him since he was 2 weeks old. I bottle fed him once his mom died. We haven't wanted to get another kitty yet, but recently I decided to foster a kitty named Camila. She's a 6-month-old shithead, but extremely lovable and will make a great addition to anyone's family. We're going to have a link in the show notes to the adorable shithead Camila for y'all. I know. Thank you so much for this submission.
Yeah. I mean, you think it's not much, but I mean,
it is.
I can't imagine the impact that would have on that family for the holidays.
Yeah.
Immeasurable. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Janice. What a great idea. Everybody reach out to your local food pantry and see if there's a family that you can help at Christmas. I remember when we were first when we were all in lockdown and we watched the Christmas episode of Ted Lasso, which happened in the fall. And at the end, they went around, Ted and Rebecca went around and gave presents to kids who wrote letters to Santa, but weren't going to be able to get anything. And I was just like, oh, I love that show.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We really needed your good news this week. I feel better every time I get to read your good news. So send it to us, dailybeanspod.com, and click on contact. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here for today, my friend?
I actually do. Also, I'm going to be gone next week, starting actually tomorrow. Allison's going to cover for a week. I'm taking my one and only vacation where I do not have to work this year. So the timing was not ideal, but Allison's going to cover it. My final thoughts today actually came from a listener. And Allison, I don't know if you have realized that you and I do this, and I want to stop. I have a tendency, because I'm a comedian and I think people look to me for humor and to lighten things, that when I get angry or emotional or cry or get mad, realizing, and the listeners realizing, that Allison and I have a tendency of apologizing afterwards. And what I'm realizing is that when we have emotion, it also gives other people permission to have that righteous anger and sadness about what's happening in the world. And so to the listener, I don't want to say your name without your permission, but I just want you to know how much I appreciated that message that you sent me. It's something that I don't want to do. And also there's been, so many studies and understanding that it's women that apologize more for their emotions than men, than cis men. Hetero men.
It's been beat into us. It's a hard.
Yeah, it has. So I am, as I go into this holiday season, I'm going to do my best to stop apologizing for my feelings and realizing that I don't always have to be here to make you laugh. I think that having my anger has given a lot of people listening some validation for their feelings and also really feeling seen. So I just wanted to thank you, my internet friend, for the email. And I just wanted to say it out loud on the podcast. Give yourself permission to be angry, to cry, to be happy, to be indignant, to be mad. Like, this stuff is fucked up that we're dealing with. And if we do not have those emotions, they will eat us from the inside out. So I refuse to let that happen. So thanks for the permission to feel.
I love this. I'm adding this to my intentions for the year. You know how most people, Dana, do New Year's resolutions?
Yeah.
Well, I do this Samhain thing that I've been doing since getting into Wicca a long time ago. Starting after Samhain, which is around Halloween, and going up to December 20th, you write down 13 intentions. And it's not like I'm going to give up saying I'm sorry.
Sugar, yeah.
Or whatever it is. You just actually say that you are that. You say, like, I am not sorry. Or I am an avid reader. Or I love to learn. And you write down 13 of these things. And then starting on December 20th, each night, you fold them up. You don't know what's in them. And you've got 13 of them. And starting on December 20th, each night you burn one. And on December 31st, you'll have one left, and you open that, and that is the intention you focus on while the universe takes care of the rest.
Oh, I like that.
So I'm adding this to my list of intentions, that I am not sorry for having emotions. I love this. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody. I will be back in your ears tomorrow. Dana, you please, I hope you have an incredible, unplugged, fantastic vacation, and take all the time you need, and we'll see you very soon. Everybody else, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of the planet, take care of your mental health, and take care of your family. I've been AG.
I've been DG.
And them's the Beans. The Daily Beans is written and executive produced by Allison Gill, with additional research and reporting by Dana Goldberg. Sound design and editing is by Desiree McFarlane, with art and web design by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios. Music for The Daily Beans is written and performed by They Might Be Giants, and the show is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, please visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.